When Emily Carter pried open the dusty trunk in the attic of Davenport Manor, she unearthed a worn leather journal. The date on the first page sent a shiver down her spine. 1750, 275 years old. With trembling hands, she read the opening lines. "My name is Isabella de Mendoza, Countess of this palace, and this is the story of how I died for love, and the promise my soul will make in every life." Emily turned the page and froze, because there was an exact description of herself. Long auburn hair, hazel eyes, a small scar above her left eyebrow, and on the next page, a description of the man who'd hired her just 2 weeks ago. If you think soulmates are just a fairy tale, this story is about to change the way you see the world, because sometimes love doesn't die, it just waits. Let me tell you how a 28-year-old housekeeper discovered she had already loved the wealthiest man in upstate New York 275 years ago, and that they both died for that love, and how an antique journal proved the impossible. It all began 3 weeks earlier, on a rainy Monday in October, in a small town outside of Albany. Emily was on her third job of the day, cleaning offices at 10 p.m. She barely earned enough to pay for her ailing mother's medication and food for her 5-year-old daughter, a widow for 2 years. 3 jobs, 12-hour days, just surviving. That night, she received a call from an unknown number. "Miss Carter, this is the assistant to Mr. Jonathan Davenport. We're looking for someone to do a deep cleaning of a historic manor. Your supervisor's references say you're exceptional with antiques. Are you interested?" Emily almost hung up. Jonathan Davenport, the billionaire who owned 12 historic hotels across Europe, so far removed from her reality, it seemed like another planet. But then, she remembered the hospital bill, the medicine her mother needed, the new shoes her daughter, Sophie, had been asking for months. "How much does it pay?" "Double what you're making now, for a month's work." Emily closed her eyes. "God, if this is a sign, I accept." 2 days later, Emily stood before Davenport Manor, a mansion dating back to 1750 that Jonathan Davenport had just purchased for $20 million. Planning to convert it into his most exclusive boutique hotel, the manor was imposing. 3 stories, a Baroque facade, gardens that looked like they belonged in an 18th century painting. But as Emily stepped through the front door, something strange happened. A chill ran down her spine, as if every cell in her body recognized the place. "I've been here before." The thought came unbidden. Absurd. Emily had never even been to this part of upstate New York. But the feeling didn't go away. Jonathan Davenport greeted her in person, 38 years old, a $5,000 dark suit, perfectly styled dark hair, deep eyes that seemed to see right through people, an aura of absolute power. "Miss Carter, thank you for coming." Emily nodded, trying not to feel small, but it was impossible. He was everything she wasn't. Rich, powerful, the kind of man who appeared on magazine covers. And she was nobody. Jonathan explained the job. Deep cleaning of the entire manor, starting with the attic, which had been sealed off for decades, cataloguing any antique objects that might have historical value. Emily listened, but there was something else going on. Every time Jonathan looked at her, something tightened in her chest, like a recognition that her mind rejected, but her body screamed. "You don't know him. You just met him. Stop being ridiculous." But then Jonathan extended his hand to seal the agreement, and when their fingers touched, Emily felt an electric shock that made her recoil. Jonathan felt it too. She saw it in his eyes. "Excuse me," he said, withdrawing his hand quickly. "Static electricity." "Yes," Emily murmured. "That must be it." But they both knew that wasn't it. Because in that split second of contact, Emily saw something. A blurry image. A flash. Someone painting. Hands stained with oil paint, and a male voice whispering, "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." Emily blinked. The vision disappeared. What was that? "Are you all right?" Jonathan asked. She detected something in his voice, concern, but also fear. "I'm fine, just tired." A lie. But she wasn't about to tell her new millionaire boss that she just had an 18th century vision upon touching him. If you've ever felt like you know someone you just met, you know what I'm talking about. That inexplicable feeling, as if your soul remembered something your mind forgot. Emily felt it with every fiber of her being, and she had no idea why. The first few days were strange. Emily worked in silence, cleaning room after room, but she couldn't shake the feeling of familiarity. This manor, she knew it. She knew that the third bedroom on the second floor had a window overlooking the rose garden before she even entered. She knew that the marble floor in the main hall had a lightning-shaped crack, and it did. She knew that in the basement there was a wine cellar with a carved oak door, and when she went down, there it was. How did she know these things? Emily tried to rationalize it. Maybe she saw pictures of the manor online. Maybe her mind was creating false memories. But she knew that was a lie. And Jonathan, he was acting strange too. Sometimes Emily would catch him staring at her, as if he were trying to solve a puzzle. And when she caught him, he would quickly look away. One day, while Emily was cleaning the library, Jonathan entered with a box of old documents. "Excuse me, I don't mean to disturb you. I just need to file some historical papers." Emily nodded, continuing to dust the shelves, but she felt his eyes on her. "Can I ask you something?" Jonathan said suddenly. Emily turned around. "Sure." He hesitated, as if the question was absurd, but he couldn't contain it. "Have you ever been in this manor before?" Emily felt a knot in her throat. "No, never." "Why?" Jonathan shook his head. "Nothing. It's just, I have this strange feeling that... Oh, forget it. Sorry." And he left the library, leaving Emily with a racing heart, because she had the same feeling. It was in her second week when Jonathan asked her to start with the attic. No one's been up there in decades. According to the records, the last time it was opened was in 1950. "I need you to catalogue everything you find, any object of historical value." Emily climbed the steep stairs. The attic door was sealed with a rusted padlock. Jonathan cut it with bolt cutters. When it swung open, a cloud of dust made them cough. "Be careful," Jonathan warned. "The floor might be unsteady." They entered together, and it was like stepping into a time capsule. Furniture covered in yellowish-white sheets, paintings stacked against the wall, wooden crates, antique trunks, and in the back, near a broken window, a leather trunk with gilded engravings. Emily approached it, without knowing why. Her hands were trembling. "That one," she whispered. "I need to open that one." Jonathan frowned. "Why that one specifically?" Emily had no answer. She just needed to. They opened the trunk. Inside were deteriorated fabrics, an old dress eaten by moths, and at the bottom, wrapped in red silk, a leather diary. Emily carefully took it out. The leather was worn, but intact. On the cover, engraved in almost faded golden letters, Isabella de Mendoza, 1750, a diary from 275 years ago. Jonathan looked at it with collector's eyes. "This is incredible. It could have immense historical value." "Can I read it?" Emily asked. The words came out on their own. Jonathan nodded. "Carefully. It's fragile." Emily opened the first page. The brown ink was faded but legible. 18th century calligraphy. Beautiful and elegant. And she read aloud, "My name is Isabella de Mendoza, Countess of this Davenport Manor. I am 25 years old, and this is the story of how I died for love and of the promise my soul will make in every life, if reincarnation exists. As the mystics say, I swear my soul will recognize Michael in any era, in any body, because what we live transcends time." Emily felt a chill. Jonathan was motionless. "Who is Michael?" he asked softly. Emily turned the page and began to read the next entry. March 15th, 1750. Today I met the man who will change my life forever. His name is Michael Alvarez. He is a painter. My father hired him to do my official portrait before my wedding to the Duke of Toledo. When he entered the drawing room this morning, with his hands stained with paint and his humble gaze, something within me awakened, as if my soul had been waiting for him. Emily continued. Her voice trembled, without knowing why. Michael is different from all the men I know. He doesn't talk about money or power. He talks about light, of shadows, of how to capture the truth on a canvas. He is 28 years old, dark hair, strong but delicate hands, and a small scar on his chin that makes me want to touch it. Jonathan touched his chin unconsciously, where he had a small scar from a childhood fall. Emily didn't notice. She kept reading. But there is something else, something that terrifies and excites me at the same time. Michael has a birthmark on his left wrist, in the shape of a crescent moon, exactly the same as mine. Emily stopped reading. She looked at her own left wrist, where she had a mole in the shape of a crescent moon that she always thought was odd. Her heart was beating so loud she could hear it. Jonathan was pale. "Can I see your wrist?" Emily asked without thinking. "What?" "Your left wrist, please." Jonathan stepped back. "I don't understand what—" "Please!" Something in Emily's voice made him obey. He took off the gold watch that always covered his left wrist, and there it was, a mole, in the shape of a crescent moon, exactly in the same place as Emily's, the same one that Isabella described in Michael 275 years ago. Emily and Jonathan looked at each other. The air between them vibrated with something impossible to explain, and it was at that moment, with the old diary between them, that Emily understood why she had felt so connected to this Davenport manor, why Jonathan seemed so familiar, why the first touch had unleashed visions. But her rational mind screamed that it was coincidence, madness, until she turned the next page of the diary and read something that made her fall to her knees. "Michael painted me today, for hours, and while he did, he told me, 'You have auburn hair that falls like silk to your waist, honey-colored eyes that change with the light, and a small scar on your left eyebrow from when you fell off a horse as a child. You are the most beautiful woman I have ever seen, and I feel like my soul has known you since before time.'" Emily dropped the diary. She touched the scar on her left eyebrow, the scar she had since she was 6 years old when she fell off a bicycle. The same place, the same mark. Jonathan picked up the diary. He read aloud, trembling. Isabella had long auburn hair, honey eyes, scar on left eyebrow. He looked at Emily, who had exactly that description. "This is not possible," he whispered. Emily couldn't speak, because in her mind, impossible pieces were beginning to fit together. The diary continued, page after page. The love story between Isabella, the wealthy countess, and Michael, the poor painter, how they fell in love during 6 months of painting sessions, how Isabella was promised to another, an arranged marriage, how they decided to elope the night before the wedding, and how it all ended in tragedy. If this story is stirring something within you, if you feel chills, leave me a super thanks, because what comes next will give you goosebumps. And I need these stories to reach more people, people who understand that there are connections that science cannot explain. Emily turned the pages. She couldn't stop. It was like reading her own story, but written almost 3 centuries ago. June 3rd, 1750. Today, Michael kissed me in this very attic while he was teaching me how to mix paints. His lips tasted like promise of eternity. I told him I was afraid. My wedding is in 3 months, and he said something I will never forget. If there is another life after this, I will look for you in every era, in every body, my every. Soul will recognize yours. Always. Emily closed the diary. Tears ran down her face without permission. Why am I crying? I don't know these people. But she did know. In some impossible way. She knew that story. She felt it in her soul. Jonathan was also affected. He had sat down on the dusty floor, with his head in his hands. This is madness, coincidences, nothing more. But his voice didn't sound convinced. Emily opened the diary again. She looked for the last entry. Her hands were shaking. September 18th, 1752. 3 days ago, Michael died. They killed him defending me when we were running away. A bullet in the chest. He died in my arms. His last words were, "I'll come back for you. I swear it on my soul. I will wait for him. In this life and in all those to come, my soul will recognize him, even if he has another name, another face, another life. Because true love does not die. It only waits for its moment. If someone reads this someday, they will know that soulmates exist, and that Michael and I will prove it, in every life, if forever." The silence that followed was absolute. Emily and Jonathan looked at each other, two strangers, from worlds completely opposite. She was a poor employee, a widow, with a daughter and a sick mother. He was a millionaire, also a widower, with an empire and power. But in that attic, with a diary from 1750 between them, something bigger than reason awakened. Jonathan stood up abruptly. His voice came out rough. I need air." And he went down from the attic, leaving Emily alone. She looked at the diary. She looked at her wrist with the moon-shaped mark, and she whispered into the emptiness, "Isabella, if you're there, if this is real, give me a sign." The wind moved the pages of the diary. It opened to a specific page. Emily read, and her world stopped. "Miguel has one flaw that I love, when he's thinking deeply. He touches the scar on his chin. He also has eyes that seem to see my soul, and hands that tremble when he touches me, as if he's afraid of breaking me. But what I love most is his voice. When he tells me he loves me, his voice breaks, as if the words are too big for him to contain." Emily remembered that first day, when Jonathan had greeted her. He had touched his chin scar when explaining the job. His hands had trembled when they shook, and his voice had sounded rough, as if the words were difficult, exactly as Isabella described Miguel. Emily closed the diary. She put it back in the dusty trunk, and she went down from the attic with a certainty that terrified her. Either she was completely insane, or she had just discovered that she had already loved Jonathan Davenport 275 years ago, and that they had both died for that love. The following days were a war between reason and insanity. Jonathan avoided Emily. When he needed to talk to her, he sent messages through his assistant. They didn't make eye contact. They didn't get close. Emily understood why, because she was scared too. This can't be real. Soulmates don't exist. Reincarnation is a fairy tale. Coincidences, just coincidences. But at night, when she tried to sleep, Emily dreamed. She dreamed of 18th century gowns, of halls filled with portraits, of hands stained with paint touching her face, and she heard a voice, Miguel, saying, "I love you in every life." She woke up crying, without understanding why. A week after discovering the diary, Jonathan called her to his office. Emily went down with her heart in her throat. It was the first time they had spoken since the attic. Jonathan was standing by the window, looking at the garden. He didn't turn around when she came in. "Please, have a seat." Emily sat down. She waited. Jonathan finally turned around. He looked tired and as if he hadn't slept in days. "I hired a historian, Dr. Arthur Jenkins, a specialist in 18th century history. I showed him the diary." Emily tensed. "And what did he say?" Jonathan took a folder from his desk. He put it in front of her. "He says it's authentic, 1750, period ink. correct paper, handwriting verified with documents from the Mendoza family of that period. So the diary is real. Yes, and there's more. Jonathan took photographs from the folder, copies of historical documents. Isabella de Mendoza really existed. She was born in 1725, daughter of the Earl of Upstate New York. She was going to marry the Duke of Toledo in September of 1752, but she disappeared the night before the wedding. They found her body 3 days later. She died of what the records call fever of the heart. What we would now know was a heart attack. She was 25 years old. Emily felt a lump in her throat. And Miguel. Jonathan took out another document. Miguel Alvarez, painter. Records say he was hired to paint the Countess's portrait in March of 1750. He died on September 15, 1752. Bullet to the chest. The records say he was a thief. But the diary says something else, Emily finished. Yes. A tense silence filled the office. This doesn't prove anything, Jonathan said finally. They're just historical facts. It matches the diary, yes, but it doesn't prove that you and I... Emily interrupted him. She showed her left wrist, the moon mark. Show me yours. Jonathan stepped back. I don't see how that... Please! He sighed. He took off his watch. He showed his wrist. The marks were identical. Same place, same shape, perfect crescent moon. Coincidence, Jonathan murmured. And the scar on my eyebrow. Emily pointed to it. The diary describes it exactly. Many people have scars. And my hair. And my eyes. And your scar on your chin. Jonathan, there are too many coincidences. Jonathan ran a hand through his hair, frustrated, scared. I don't believe in reincarnation. I don't believe in soulmates. I'm a businessman, of facts, of science. But his voice was trembling. Emily stood up. She approached him. For the first time, she dared to look him directly in the eyes, then explained to me why, when I saw you for the first time, I felt like I knew you. Explain why this Davenport manor feels familiar to me. Explain why, when you touched my hand, I saw visions. Explain the marks, the dreams, everything. Jonathan looked at her, and Emily saw something in his eyes that made her hold her breath. Fear, but also recognition. You feel it too, she whispered. The truth. Jonathan closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were wet. I don't want to feel it. Why? Because if this is real, it means I already lost you once, and I can't bear the idea of losing you again. The words came out broken, vulnerable, so different from the cold millionaire Emily had met. And it was in that moment that Emily understood something. Jonathan wasn't denying the connection because he didn't feel it. He was denying it because it terrified him. Because 3 years ago, he had lost his wife in a car accident, and that pain almost destroyed him. And now, somehow impossibly, he was feeling something for Emily that he couldn't explain, and he was afraid to love again, afraid to lose again. You're not going to lose me, Emily said softly. Jonathan shook his head. That's what Miguel thought, and he died defending Isabella. We're in 2025. Not 1752. Time doesn't change destiny. Emily took Jonathan's hands. He didn't resist. And when they touched, they both felt the same electric shock as the first day. But this time, they didn't let go. Jonathan, Emily murmured, look at me. He looked at her, and in his eyes, Emily saw centuries, lives, promises. I don't have all the answers, she said. I don't know if reincarnation is real or if we are Isabella and Miguel, but I know that when I'm near you, I feel like I've come home, and that can't be a coincidence. Jonathan closed his eyes. A tear rolled down his cheek. I feel it too, and it terrifies me. Emily squeezed his hands. Then let's be brave, together. And now, let me ask you something. What would you do if you discovered that you had already loved someone centuries ago? Would you accept the truth, or would you hide in denial? Comment below. because this story is about to get intense. And I need to know I'm not alone in this. That night, Emily took the diary home with her. She knew she shouldn't. It was a valuable historical artifact, but she needed to read the whole thing. She needed to understand what happened 275 years ago. Her 5-year-old daughter Lily was asleep. Her mother, too. Emily sat down at the small kitchen table, under a dim light, and she began to read from the very beginning. The diary told the most beautiful and tragic love story she'd ever read. Isabella wrote about every encounter with Michael, how at first she only saw him as the hired painter, how she slowly began to look forward to the portrait sessions, how Michael taught her to see the world differently. April 8th, 1750. Today, Michael told me something I'll never forget. He was painting my hands, and he said, "Hands tell more than faces. These hands, Isabella, speak of kindness, of hidden strength, of someone who has suffered but chose to love anyway." He made me cry, because no one had ever truly seen me before, until him. Emily touched her own hands, marked by work, by scrubbing floors, by caring for the sick, and she felt as if Isabella was speaking to her across time. She continued reading. May 20th, 1750. Today, Michael kissed me. It was in the attic. He was teaching me how to mix paints, Prussian blue with lead white, to make the color of the sky. Our hands touched, and when I looked at him, I saw something in his eyes that took my breath away. Love. Love that asked for nothing, that didn't care about social class, that just was. He kissed me like I was the most sacred thing in the world, and I kissed him back, because my soul knew what my mind refused to accept. He is my person, in this life and in any other. Emily closed the diary. She needed to process, because those words felt like her own. That feeling that Jonathan was her person, absurd. She'd only known him for weeks, but her soul insisted. "You've known him since before time." Emily opened the diary again. She looked for the last entries. September 10th, 1752. The wedding is in 5 days. To the Duke of Harrison, a man I don't love, who bought me like property. Michael begged me to run away with him. He says we can go to France, start over, away from titles and obligations. I'm afraid, but I'm more afraid of living a life without him. I've decided we'll run away the night before the wedding. September 15th, 1752. Today is the day. Tonight Michael will come for me. I'll leave everything, titles, wealth, family, because I've learned something. Love is worth more than gold, and Michael is my soul. Whatever happens, I won't regret it, because a life without love is not a life. It's just existence. Emily felt a lump in her throat, because she knew how it ended. She turned to the last page. The writing was shaky, stained with what looked like dried tears. September 18th, 1752. Michael died 3 days ago. They killed him. A bullet. Defending me from the guards my father sent, he died in my arms. His last promise, "I'll come back for you. I swear it on my soul." I promised him, "I'll wait for you, in this life, and in all the lives to come." Now I will die too, not from a bullet, but from a broken heart. But before I go, I write this. If reincarnation exists, Michael, find me, and I will recognize you, even if you have another name, another face, another life, because my soul knows yours, and true love never dies. It just waits for its moment. Emily closed the diary. Tears streamed down her face, and she whispered into the darkness, "I found him, Isabella." 275 years later, I found him. The next morning, Emily returned to Davenport Manor. Jonathan was waiting for her at the entrance. He looked just like her, sleepless, red-eyed. "I read it," he said without preamble. "Professor Hayes sent me scanned copies of the entire diary. I read it all night." Emily nodded. "Me too. Then you know." Jonathan said softly. You know how it ended. Yes. Jonathan stepped closer. For the first time, he let the distance between them disappear. Emily, I need to tell you something, and I know it sounds crazy, but ever since I met you, I've been having dreams, vivid dreams, of another time. I see you in old dresses. I have hands stained with paint, and I tell you that you are my soul. Every damn night. Emily wasn't surprised. Me too. I dream about this manor, but in 1750, I dream about you dying in my arms. They both looked at each other, the weight of the impossible between them. What do we do with this? Jonathan asked. Emily took his hands, and when they touched, the electric shock returned. But this time it came with something more, a vision. They both saw it at the same time. They were in the attic, but it was 1750. He was Michael in painter's clothes. She was Isabella in a silk dress. Michael kissed her, whispered, "You are my eternity." Isabella replied, "And you are mine." And then the vision dissolved. They were back in 2025. Jonathan was shaking. "You saw it?" Emily nodded. "Both of us, together." And that's when they knew, without a doubt, that this was no coincidence. It was destiny, fulfilling a promise from 275 years ago. Jonathan called Professor Hayes that afternoon. "I need you to come here. Urgent." The professor arrived 2 hours later. A man of 65, grey hair, thick glasses. A specialist in 18th century European history. Jonathan showed him everything. The diary, the identical marks, the historical documents. And he told him something he never thought he'd say out loud. The shared visions. Professor Hayes listened in silence, examined the diary with a magnifying glass, took photos, made notes. Finally, he took off his glasses and looked at Jonathan and Emily. "I've been studying history for 40 years. I've seen thousands of documents, hundreds of coincidences, but this," he sighed, "this is different." "Why?" Jonathan asked. "Because everything matches, the dates, the names, the physical descriptions. And these marks," he pointed to their wrists, "identical, in the same place the diary describes 2 centuries ago." "But that doesn't prove reincarnation," Jonathan said. "We need something more." Professor Hayes nodded. "That's why I brought something." He pulled a folder from his briefcase. Inside were old photographs, copies of records from 1750. "I found this in the archives of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, a record of works by Michael Alvarez. It says he painted the official portrait of Isabella de Mendoza in 1750, but the portrait was never delivered because they disappeared before the wedding." "Where is the portrait now?" Emily asked. The professor smiled. "That's the question. According to the records, Michael hid the portrait somewhere in this manor. It was never found, but," he pointed to the diary, "Isabella mentions something in one of the entries." "What?" Jonathan and Emily said in unison. Professor Vega read from his notes. August 10th, 1750, quote, "Miguel finished my portrait today. It is beautiful, but he says he won't give it to me. He says he'll hide it behind the false wall in the main hall, where only he and I know, so that no one else sees me as he sees me, only us." Emily felt a chill. Main hall. Jonathan was already standing. "Let's go." The three went to the main hall, a huge space with high ceilings, walls covered with carved wood paneling from the 18th century. "Where?" Jonathan asked. Emily closed her eyes. She didn't know why, but suddenly she knew. "There!" She pointed to a section of the wall, next to the fireplace. Jonathan frowned. "How do you know?" Emily had no answer. She just knew. Professor Vega examined the wall. He touched the panels, and then he found something, a small irregularity in the wood. "Here," he announced, "there's a loose panel." Carefully, he moved it, and behind it was a hollow space, and inside, wrapped in old cloth, a canvas. Jonathan pulled it out with trembling hands. He carefully removed the cloth, and everyone gasped. It was a portrait of a woman in her mid-20s, period white dress, long brown hair, hazel eyes, small scar on her left eyebrow. It was Isabella de Mendoza, but it wasn't just a historical portrait. It was Emily. Exact. Every detail, every feature, as if Miguel had painted Emily 275 years before she was born. Professor Vega examined the canvas. His voice trembled. It's authentic. 1750. Miguel Alvarez's signature. And look at this. He turned the canvas over. On the back, written in brown ink, Isabella, my eternal soul. I love you in every life. Miguel, September 15th, 1752. The day of the escape. The last day Miguel lived. Emily couldn't breathe because she was seeing her own face in a painting from almost 3 centuries ago, and in the lower corner, painted with meticulous detail, 2 intertwined hands, each with a crescent moon mark on the left wrist. This isn't possible, Jonathan whispered, but he was seeing the proof before his very eyes. Professor Vega shook his head. As a scientist, I should tell you it's a coincidence, but as a historian who spent 40 years seeing the inexplicable, I'm telling you, this is reincarnation. Emily touched the portrait, and when her fingers grazed the paint, she felt something, a surge of emotions, not her own, someone else's, Isabella's. Love, desperation, hope, promise, and a voice in her mind, clear as water. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for finding it. If you pause this video here, I understand, because there are stories that aren't for watching in the background, they're for feeling. And if this is stirring something in you that you can't explain, leave me a super thanks. Not for me. So these stories reach the right people, the ones who need to know that true love doesn't die, it just waits. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. The portrait was now in Jonathan's study, under professional light, being analyzed, but Emily didn't need any more analysis. She knew the truth. She was Isabella, somehow impossibly. Her soul was the same as that woman who died almost 3 centuries ago, and Jonathan was Miguel, and they had made a promise that transcended time, death, entire lives. At 3 in the morning, her phone rang. It was Jonathan. You're awake? Yes. I can't sleep either. Can you come over to Davenport Manor? I need to see you. Emily didn't hesitate. She called a neighbor to watch Sophia, and she went. Jonathan was waiting for her in the attic, where it all began. The diary was open in front of him, with candles lit all around, just like in 1750. Emily climbed the stairs, and when she entered the attic, she felt like time was collapsing. What are you doing? She asked. Jonathan looked at her. His eyes shone with suppressed tears. I need to know. I need to know if this is real. How? Jonathan held out his hand. Touch the diary, with me, at the same time. Emily understood. The last time they touched something together, they had a shared vision. Maybe the diary would show more. Are you sure? She asked. No, but I need to try. Emily knelt in front of him, the diary between them. Jonathan put his hand on the cover. Emily put hers on top. They looked at each other, took a deep breath, and touched the diary together. The surge was immediate, stronger than ever. The attic disappeared, and suddenly, they were in 1750. Emily saw herself, but it wasn't Emily. It was Isabella. White dress, hair done up with pearls, in this very attic, and in front of her, Miguel, in painter's clothes, hands stained with oil paint, eyes full of love. Miguel kissed her, his hands on her face. I love you, Isabella, in this life and in all the ones to come. I love you too, Miguel. My soul is yours, forever. And then the vision changed. They saw the night of the escape. September 15th, 1752. Miguel arriving at the manor. At midnight, with 2 horses. Isabella climbing down from the window. with only a small bag, fleeing together through the woods. And then the guards, sent by Isabella's father. Halt! In the name of the Countess. Miguel protecting Isabella with his body. They won't touch her. A bullet, fired by the captain of the guard. Miguel falling, blood on his chest. Isabella screaming, kneeling beside him. Miguel touching her face with trembling hands, smearing her with blood. I'll come back, I swear it, on my soul. I'll look for you in every life. Me too. I'll wait for you, even if it takes 1,000 years. And Miguel closing his eyes. His last word, Isabella. The vision continued. 3 days later, Isabella in her room, writing in the diary, crying, her heart literally breaking. A massive heart attack caused by emotional pain, falling onto the diary. Her last words written with a trembling hand. Miguel, I'm coming with you. And then, a flash of light. The two souls separating from their bodies, meeting in the ether, intertwining. A wordless promise, a cosmic oath. We will find each other again. And the vision dissolved. Emily and Jonathan returned to the present, gasping, crying, shaking. They had seen themselves die. 275 years ago, they had seen the promise they made, and they had felt the love that bound them, so strong that it spanned centuries. Jonathan was devastated. Tears streamed freely down his face. I saw you die. I saw you die for me. Emily hugged him, also crying. And you died protecting me. They clung to each other, as if letting go meant losing each other again. And in that attic, in 2025, two souls who had searched for each other through time finally allowed themselves to accept the truth. They were Michael and Isabella. They had returned. They had fulfilled their promise. Jonathan broke the embrace. He looked into Emily's eyes. I don't want to make the same mistakes. I don't want to lose you again. Emily touched his face. You won't lose me. This time we're going to do it right. How do you know? Because now we know what not to do. In 1752 we ran and they killed us. In 2025 we aren't running. We're going to face this together. Jonathan nodded, but there was fear in his eyes. What if destiny repeats itself? Emily shook her head. Destiny brought us back together, but what we do now is our decision. And I choose you, even if the whole world says it's impossible. Jonathan kissed her, and it was as if 275 years vanished, as if they had never been apart, as if finally, after centuries, they were home. Now let me ask you, if you didn't feel chills with this story, if you didn't feel a lump in your throat, comment chills. Because what comes next is going to close the circle, and it's going to prove that there are loves that no death can erase. The following days were surreal. Professor Davies validated everything. The portrait was authentic. The diary was authentic. The historical records matched. He even did something more. He found a second portrait, unfinished, in the museum archives. It was of Michael, painted by Isabella, because the diary mentioned that Michael had taught her to paint, and that she had tried to do his portrait. And when they saw the unfinished portrait of Michael, Jonathan was speechless, because it was him. Exactly. Same face, same eyes, same scar on his chin, as if Isabella had painted Jonathan almost 3 centuries ago. This is, Professor Davies took off his glasses, the closest I've ever been to witnessing a miracle. It's not a miracle, Emily said softly. It's a promise kept, but there was something else that needed to happen. One night, Emily was alone in Davenport Manor, cleaning the study. Jonathan had gone out to a business dinner, and Emily felt a strange urge, a need to paint. She had never painted in her life. She had never touched a brush. But in the study, there were art supplies. Jonathan was a collector. Emily didn't know what drove her, but she took out a blank canvas, brushes, oil paints, and she began to paint. Her hands moved on their own, as if they knew what to do, as if they had a memory of their own. She painted for 2 hours, without thinking, only feeling. And when she finished, she took a step back, and she was breathless. She had painted Jonathan perfectly, with 18th century technique, with colors she didn't know existed, with shadows she had never studied. As if Isabella was painting through her, Jonathan arrived home an hour later. He found Emily sitting on the floor, looking at the painting. "What?" he began to say, and then he saw the painting. He stopped, pale. "You painted that?" Emily nodded. "I don't know how, but yes." Jonathan approached. He examined the painting. "This is..." His voice broke. "This is exactly Michael's style. I've seen it in museums. And you've never painted. Never." "Then how?" Emily looked at him. "Isabella, she knew. She taught me. Through time." Jonathan fell to his knees and cried. He cried for everything, for the impossibility, for the truth, for the love that transcended death. Emily knelt beside him. She hugged him and whispered, "I'm not afraid anymore." "Neither am I," he responded. "Not anymore." But there remained a doubt, a final question. That reason screamed. Jonathan called Professor Davies that same night. He asked him for something definitive. "I need you to validate the diary completely. Carbon dating, ink analysis, paper authenticity, historical records of Isabella de Mendoza and Michael Alvarez, everything." The professor agreed. It took 2 weeks. 2 weeks where Emily and Jonathan lived in a strange limbo, between the present and 1750, between reason and impossible love. Emily continued cleaning, but she was no longer just a cleaner. Jonathan asked her to restore some antique pieces from the manor, and Emily discovered that she knew. She knew how to clean 300-year-old oil paint without damaging it. She knew what varnish to use. She knew techniques that only the most expert restorers knew, and that she had never studied. At night, they sat together in the attic, reading the diary, page by page. Isabella had written everything. The 6 months of portrait sessions, the forbidden conversations, the moment they touched hands for the first time, and the tragedy. On the night of September 15th, 1752, Isabella and Michael tried to escape, but the Duke of Toledo sent guards. They caught up to them 3 kilometers from Madrid. Michael stood between the guards and Isabella. A bullet pierced his chest. Isabella wrote, "He died in my arms. His last word was my name. His last promise, I will come back for you. I swear it on my soul." Isabella survived 3 days more. On September 18th, 1752, she died. Of heartbreak, the doctor said. But in the diary, she wrote her truth. "I cannot live in a world where he doesn't exist, but if there is another life, if reincarnation exists, my soul will recognize him instantly. I will wait 1,000 lives, if necessary." Emily closed the diary. Tears fell on the ancient leather. Jonathan cleaned them carefully and kissed her forehead. 2 weeks later, Professor Davies called them. "Come to my office. I have the results." Emily and Jonathan arrived together, holding hands. The professor was serious, surrounded by documents, analyses, ancient books. He sat down. He looked at them, and he spoke. "I have worked as a historian for 40 years. I have seen forged documents, elaborate frauds, romantic inventions." Emily felt her heart sink. "But this," the professor touched the diary, "this is none of those things." He held up a document. Carbon dating, paper and ink, 1750 to 1755. Margin of error, 3 years. It matches perfectly. He raised another, calligraphic analysis. The handwriting shows characteristics of Spanish aristocratic education of the 18th century, specifically feminine style of high nobility. Another one. Sealing wax seal, authenticated. It corresponds to the Mendoza family, documented in Madrid nobility archives. And finally, the professor opened an ancient book, Parish Registry of Deaths from 1752. He pointed to an entry, September 18th, 1752. Isabella Maria de Mendoza y Sotomayor, Countess, 25 years old, cause affliction of the heart. He turned the page. September 15th, 1752, Michael Alvarez Ruiz, painter, 28 years old, cause gunshot wound. Jonathan stopped breathing. The professor continued, I found more. A report from the Duke of Toledo's guard describes how they pursued a fugitive couple, a noblewoman and a painter. The painter died defending her. He placed another document down. Isabella's will, dated September 16th, 1752, one day after Miguel's death. She left her entire fortune to the church, and a note, so that they may pray for the soul of Miguel, the only man I ever loved. Emily sobbed. The professor looked at her, his eyes wet. And there's more, he continued. I found inventories of Davenport Manor from 1753, a year after the deaths. It lists several paintings, including portrait of Countess Isabella de Mendoza, artist Miguel Alvarez, 1750, and another unfinished portrait of the painter Miguel Alvarez, self-portrait, 1752. Jonathan stood up. Those paintings, where are they? The professor shook his head. They disappeared. According to the records, they were stored in the attic, on the family's orders, so as not to remember the shame. They were never sold, never exhibited. And probably, the professor looked at Jonathan, probably they are still in this manor, somewhere. Emily and Jonathan exchanged a look. The professor closed his documents, and then he spoke the words that would change everything. This journal is authentic. Isabella de Mendoza existed. Miguel Alvarez existed. They died exactly as the journal describes, and the physical descriptions that Isabella wrote. He looked at Emily. Match you, Emily whispered. Then it's real, it's all real. The professor nodded. I am a man of science. I don't believe in the supernatural easily. But this, he pointed to the documents, this defies all rational explanation, unless we accept the impossible. What? Jonathan asked. That souls exist, that they transcend death, and that you two, the professor took a breath, already died for each other, 275 years ago. Absolute silence. Emily felt the world tilt. Jonathan steadied her, and the professor spoke the ultimate truth. And if the paintings are still in the manor, if you find them, then you will have the definitive proof. Because Isabella wrote in the journal that Miguel painted her face the day before they fled, and that she would never age in that painting, that their love would be frozen in time. Jonathan squeezed Emily's hand. We're going to find them. The professor smiled. Sadly, I hope you do, because if what I believe is true, those paintings will not only show Isabella and Miguel, they will show you. Emily and Jonathan left the professor's office in silence. In the car, neither spoke for 10 minutes, until Jonathan pulled the car over to the side of the road and said, We're going to find those paintings. Today. They arrived at the manor at sunset. Jonathan gathered all the employees who knew the history of the house, the elderly butler who had worked there for 40 years, the cook whose grandmother had worked in the manor in the 50s, and the architect who had done the last renovation in 2010. He asked them, Have you seen any false walls, any hidden spaces, anything that doesn't make sense? The butler thought, There's a room in the east attic. It always seemed smaller than it should be. The architect nodded. It's true. When I did the measurements, that room is 6 feet shorter than the original plan indicates. Emily felt a chill. Jonathan was already running towards the attic. They all went up. The butler opened the small room. It was full of old furniture, boxes, dust of decades. The architect took out the old plans. He measured. Here, he pointed to the east wall. There should be 6 more feet here. Jonathan touched the wall. It sounded hollow. He began to remove the furniture that was leaning against it. Emily helped him. And then, behind a heavy 19th century wardrobe, they saw something. A line, an almost invisible seam in the old wallpaper. Jonathan ran his fingers over it. It's a door. The architect examined it. It has no handle. It's sealed, probably for 200 years or more. We have to open it, Emily said, her voice trembling. Jonathan nodded. They brought tools. They carefully cut the wallpaper. Underneath there was old wood and a small, rusty latch. Jonathan took a deep breath and pushed. The door resisted, creaked, and finally gave way. A dark space opened before them. Emily turned on a flashlight. The beam of light revealed a small room without windows, secret, and on the back wall, 2 paintings covered with old white cloths. Jonathan went in first. Emily followed him. They stopped in front of the paintings. Neither dared to move the cloths because they knew that what was underneath would change everything forever. Emily reached out, trembling. She touched the cloth on the larger painting and pulled. The cloth fell to the floor in a cloud of dust, and Emily screamed, because there in that painting from 275 years ago, painted in 1750, was her. It didn't resemble her. It wasn't someone similar. It was her, exactly her. The same face, the same honey-colored eyes, the same thin scar on her left eyebrow, even the way she smiled, that shy smile that Emily had. Everything was there. On the golden plaque at the foot of the painting it read, Isabella Maria de Mendoza y Sotomayor, Countess, painted by Miguel Alvarez, year 1750. Jonathan staggered. Emily couldn't stop looking at herself in a painting painted 275 years before she was born. And then Jonathan, with trembling hands, uncovered the second painting, and it was his turn not to be able to breathe, because there he was. Not a likeness, not a coincidence. Him, the same dark eyes, the same strong jawline, the same small scar on his chin that he had since he was a child, even the shape of his hands, an artist's hands, the journal had said, and the plaque read, Miguel Alvarez Ruiz, painter, unfinished self-portrait, year 1752. Emily began to cry. Jonathan fell to his knees. The butler, the architect, the cook, everyone remained silent, looking at the paintings, looking at Emily and Jonathan, and seeing the impossible. Emily knelt next to Jonathan. She took his hands and whispered, 275 years. We waited 275 years. Jonathan looked at her, his eyes full of tears, and said what his soul had known since the first day he saw her. I recognized you from the moment you walked into this house. I didn't know why, but my soul did. Emily touched his face. Me too. That's why I stayed. That's why I couldn't leave. Jonathan hugged her. And there, in that secret room, in front of the paintings that proved the impossible, they kissed, not like 2 people who had just met, but like 2 souls that had been searching for each other through the centuries and had finally found each other. Professor Vega came 2 days later. He authenticated the paintings, both originals, both by Miguel Alvarez. And when he saw the faces in the paintings and then looked at Emily and Jonathan, he took off his glasses and she wept. In my 40 years as a historian, he said, his voice thick with emotion, I've witnessed many inexplicable things, but this is proof that love transcends death. The paintings were catalogued, documented, meticulously, and the professor penned an academic article that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Reincarnation, tangible evidence in the case of Isabella de Mendoza and Miguel Alvarez. Some called him crazy, a crackpot. Others hailed him as revolutionary, a visionary. But no one, absolutely no one, could refute the evidence. If this story resonates with you, if you feel that you too have loved someone in another life, please leave a comment below. I want to know I'm not alone in this. And if you can, consider using the Super Thanks feature. Stories like these need to be told, need to be shared, but there was still something to resolve, a lingering question. Because Emily and Jonathan, they were scared, afraid of repeating the tragedy. Back in 1752, they had tried to be together, and they had died. What if they tried again? One night, 3 weeks after the discovery of the paintings, Emily woke up screaming, crying. She'd had a nightmare, a vision, a terrifying glimpse into the past. She and Jonathan were fleeing, running for their lives, and he was dying in her arms. Again, Jonathan held her tight, trying to soothe her. It's okay, I'm here. But Emily was trembling, consumed by fear. What if destiny repeats itself? What if we try to be together and something terrible happens? Jonathan fell silent, his eyes clouding over, because he had been thinking the exact same thing. He had lost his wife 3 years ago, in a tragic accident, and since then, he had sworn never to love anyone again, because to love was to lose. But now he knew that his soul had already loved Emily 275 years ago, and he had lost her. And here they were, again, given a second chance. I'm afraid, Jonathan confessed, his voice a bare whisper. I'm afraid of losing you. Again. Emily looked at him, her eyes filled with tears. Me too. So, what do we do? He asked, the question hanging heavy in the air. Emily took his hand. She placed it over her chest, over her heart. Do you feel that it's beating? I'm alive. You're alive. And this time, we are free. In 1750, Isabella was a countess, betrothed to a duke. She had no choice and no say in her own destiny. Miguel was poor. He had no power, no influence. They had to flee, to run away, to even have a sliver of happiness. And the world killed them for it, crushed their love. But now, Emily squeezed his hand. Now, no one is chasing us. No one is judging us. We are free to love each other. Jonathan swallowed hard, overwhelmed by the enormity of it all. But what if destiny? Emily interrupted him, her voice filled with conviction. Destiny isn't a prison, it's a promise. Miguel promised to return for Isabella, and he did. 275 years later, here you are. Jonathan looked at her, tears welling up in his eyes. Isabella promised to wait, and she did. Emily smiled softly. Here I am. We fulfilled our promises, she continued. But now, we have to choose. Repeat the tragedy out of fear, or change the ending, rewrite our story. How do we change the ending? Jonathan whispered. Emily kissed him, a long, lingering kiss that spoke volumes. By staying, by not running, by facing life together, as we couldn't do 275 years ago. Jonathan closed his eyes, letting her words sink deep into his soul. And then he said what his heart already knew. In 1752, Miguel died for Isabella. This time, I want to live for you, Emily wept, her heart overflowing with love and hope. And I want to live with you, not die of heartbreak, but live for love. They embraced, holding each other tight, and in that moment, both of them felt something profound, a peace, a sense of completion, as if two souls, exhausted from centuries of waiting, could finally rest. Jonathan made a decision. The next day, he convened his board of directors, and he resigned from half of his empire, shocking everyone. He donated 6 of his 12 hotels to an art foundation, ensuring the arts will always be cherished, and he dedicated himself to what he had always wanted to do, but had never dared, to restore art, to paint, to create, to become once again the artist he was 275 years ago. Emily, for her part, stopped being just a cleaning lady. Jonathan offered her a position, a prestigious one, chief restorer of the manor's historic collection, entrusting her with the care of priceless artifacts, and Emily accepted without hesitation, because touching those ancient pieces, she felt like she was touching her own history, understanding a deeper sense of herself. 6 months later, Jonathan proposed, not in a fancy restaurant, not in a crowded setting, but in the attic, under the soft glow of candlelight, in front of Isabella's diary, in front of the paintings, surrounded by their shared past. "Emily," he said, kneeling before her, his voice thick with emotion, "I've waited 275 years for this moment. In 1752, we couldn't marry, but now we can. Will you marry me? In this life and in all the ones to come?" Emily wept, tears of joy streaming down her face. Yes, 1,000 times yes. They were married 3 months later, in the same chapel where Isabella and Miguel were supposed to meet on the night of their escape, filled with hopeful and eager dreams. The chapel they never saw together in 1752, but that now, in 2025, finally saw them. Professor Vega was the best man, beaming with pride. Emily's 5-year-old daughter, Sophia, was the flower girl, scattering petals with joyful abandon. And at the moment of the ceremony, when the priest asked, "Jonathan, do you take Emily to be your lawfully wedded wife?" Jonathan looked at Emily, his eyes filled with unconditional love, and he said, "I do, in this life, and in every life my soul remembers." When it was Emily's turn, she replied, her voice ringing with conviction, "I do, in this life, and in all the ones we've already lived, and in all the ones to come." They kissed, sealing their fate, forever intertwined, and Sophia, the 5-year-old girl, whispered to her grandmother, "Grandma, I saw something." "What did you see, my love?" "I saw Mommy in an old white dress, and Mr. Jonathan in painter's clothes, and they were kissing, but it was a long, long time ago." The grandmother looked at Emily, her eyes wide with wonder. Emily looked at Jonathan, a knowing smile gracing her lips, and they knew, without a doubt, that even Sophia, Emily's daughter, could see what their souls had lived. Their shared existence, because true love doesn't hide, not even from time itself. Jonathan and Emily moved into Davenport Manor together, ready to start a new chapter of their lives. They converted the attic into an art studio, a sacred space where creativity flourished, and there, surrounded by the paintings from 1750, by Isabella's diary, by the history that had brought them back together, they painted together, side by side. Emily discovered she possessed Isabella's talent, a hidden gift that had been dormant for centuries. Jonathan rediscovered Miguel's, rekindling his passion for art, and they created art together, as they should have done 275 years ago. Isabella's diary was donated to the National Museum in upstate New York, with one condition, that it be displayed alongside the paintings to show the world the importance of art, so that the world could see that love does not die, it only waits. 5 years later, in 2030, a journalist interviewed them, eager to tell their unbelievable story. He asked, "Do you really believe you are Isabella and Miguel reincarnated?" Emily smiled, a knowing glint in her eye. She looked at Jonathan, her soulmate, and Jonathan replied, "It doesn't matter what we believe. What matters is what we know." "And what do you know?" asked the journalist, his pen poised to capture every word. Emily took Jonathan's hand. She showed the journalist the moon-shaped birthmark on her left wrist. Jonathan showed his. Identical. "We know that love transcends, that promises are kept, and that when two souls are destined, nothing, not even death, can separate them forever." The journalist wrote an article, a poignant and moving piece. It went viral, spreading across the globe. Millions of people read it. captivated by their incredible story, and many began to wonder if they too had loved before, perhaps in a different time, in a different place, if their souls also remembered past connections, hidden passions, if someone in their life was actually someone their soul had known for centuries. Emily and Jonathan lived together, not in tragedy, not in fear, but in the peace that only comes after fulfilling a promise made 275 years ago. Jonathan never feared losing Emily again because they were connected forever, because he knew that if he lost her in this life, he would find her in the next. And Emily never felt unworthy of love again. She was deeply happy for the first time in her life because she knew that she was loved unconditionally, eternally, because she understood that her soul had no social class, and that true love isn't measured in money, it's measured in lives. Madison, Emily's daughter, grew up surrounded by art, by history, and by the certainty that love is eternal. And when she turned 15, she asked her mom, "Mom, do you think I've lived before too?" Emily smiled. "I don't know, sweetie, but if you have, I'm sure your soul will tell you when the time is right." Madison nodded, and then she said something that chilled Emily to the bone. "Mom, I keep dreaming about a girl. She's my age, but she wears old-fashioned clothes from the 1700s or something, and she says to me, 'We'll see each other soon.'" Emily hugged her daughter tight, and she knew that the story didn't end with her and Jonathan, that souls continue, life after life, love after love, promise after promise. If you feel like someone in your life is more than just coincidence, if you feel like your soul recognizes someone that your mind has only just met, if you feel that love is bigger than time itself, leave a comment, because you are not alone. And if this story touched something deep inside you, hit that super thanks button. Eternal love stories like this need to be heard. Isabel Davenport's diary remains in the National Museum of Upstate New York, next to the two portraits by Michael Alvarez. And every day, thousands of people pass by them. They look at the faces of Isabel and Michael, and some, a very few, recognize something that they can't explain, but that they feel because perhaps they too have souls that remember Emily and Jonathan are still together, painting, loving, living. And every September 15th, the day Michael died in 1752, they light a candle, not for the death, but for the promise that Michael made, "I will come back for you," and that he kept 275 years later. The promise that Isabel made, "I will wait for you," and that she kept in every life until he returned, because that's how true love works. It doesn't end, it only transforms, life after life, soul after soul, until finally, like Emily and Jonathan, it finds itself and no longer has to run, only to stay and to love forever. The end. If you ever feel like you've known someone forever, even though you just met them, if you ever feel that your heart recognizes something that your mind doesn't understand, now you know why. Because souls don't forget, they just wait for the perfect moment to remember. Leave me a comment telling me your story. And if this story made you believe in eternal love, hit that super thanks button so I can continue sharing stories that prove that love is stronger than time.